This is TeamSport Birmingham, a track I haven't visited in over a year. In fact, the last time I was here, they had petrol carts. Now, I've never raced electric carts before, so I was kind of nervous going into these sessions, but let's see what goes down. Coming into this first session, I had no clue what to expect from these electric carts. But what I've heard and seen from others on YouTube, these things are quick. And I'll be racing with a friend today, whose local track is this track. Here he is. This is Lance, and as usual, he's late. As I said earlier, this is my first outing in an electric kart, so I'll let you listen to my reaction when I get a feel for the acceleration these things have.
Shit. Oh, this is mad. These are instant.
Being used to the petrol carts at Coventry, the sheer acceleration on these things really shocks me. And for the first time, we go green. Straight away we're going into a downhill, which was the sketchiest thing ever. I didn't realise how steep it is. And I've never been really that good at hairpins, so turn one was a bit of a struggle. But going into this sweeping right, I decided to lift off a bit. Went out a bit too wide for my liking, but we immediately get shown the red light for the light test. Getting back up to racing speed now, I use my boost as soon as I get onto the pitch straight, because I thought that's probably going to be the best time to use it. And this is the scariest turn I have ever taken. As you can see, I've made a pretty big error there, but that turn was so scary. This section was all flat out until I brake by the red door on the left here, trying to get some rotation for the uphill. In the petrol carts, I could actually just about make it up that hill, but within these electric ones, it was so easy. Now this set of corners here was probably my favourite on the track, because you could genuinely just drift around them. It was so fun. But coming back to the downhill, I tried to keep it close, but I ended up going very wide, a very horrible line, and that was my first lap in these electric carts. At this point we get shown the first yellow flags of the session, and this was for a pretty big incident, which I'll speed up to now. Basically, what has happened here is Lance has had to slam on his brakes to try and avoid crashing into someone who would end up spinning on the apex of this corner, but the person behind him couldn't react in time and ended up going right into the back of him. But from what Lance told me at the end of the session, it sounded like a pretty big impact. Now before that yellow flag, I had clean air in front of me throughout the whole thing, but now I am right at the back of the pack, which means I'm going to have to work my way through this traffic. Now as we go back to the green flags, I catch up a lot to this person as they decide to use their brakes through these corners, which I take flat. You may have seen I did make a pretty big error there, as I used my boost on that little straight, which absolutely ruins my next lap. But at least I get a nice move done on that back marker. Now it was at this point where I thought I'd get my boost back, and that's because I thought you'd get it back at the end of every lap, which I now know isn't the case. Now I'm not too sure if this is right, but I believe you get that boost back from harvesting, so like through brakes and coasting through corners. At this point I've managed to catch up to another back marker, as they seem to be braking through a lot of the corners quite sharply. So I get a better exit than the car in front, out of the chicane, and as we go to the downhill they keep a good defensive line, keeping me from going up the inside. Now they got on the brakes a bit earlier here than I was expecting, so I managed to stick my nose up the inside, which then turns to the outside for the next corner, but I just end up sweeping it around there and getting an overtake done. I do like a good move around the outside. Now I've caught up to two more back markers who appear to be fighting, and they get a bad acceleration up the hill, so I have a look up the inside, but realise I don't have the acceleration either. I tried to have a little look up the inside here, but it was a bit risky, so I end up backing out of it. I then tried to go for the switchback as he goes a bit deep into this corner, but once again I don't have the acceleration. And it's at this point where I realise how hard this track is to overtake on. I'll let you see how long this battle goes on for now. Yeah, that was a long old fight, But I used my boost, shove it up the inside, going into the end of the pitch straights, which I did see actually he didn't use his boost. I don't think people actually know the boost worked at this track, but it does, definitely. And we're coming up again to more traffic. I don't actually know how that guy got so sideways through that corner, because I just lift through that, I don't brake at all. But flat all the way through here, he holds a good defensive line, so I don't have no chance of shoving it up the inside. Going up the uphill, brakes through that corner, don't really need to do that. But I keep applying pressure on him. I have a quick look up the inside here. Once again, I back out. It's a bit risky as this is a very tight track. I hold a better line, keeping it closer to the barrier at the bottom of the downhill. Once again, I'm not really a fan of that turn one. It's quite hard to get right, well for me anyway. But after a long old scrap, I apply my boost and I overtake him on the pit straight. A whole lap later, and we've caught up to the second back marker, who breaks through that corner. This one too, and this one. That allows me to get right on his tail, and I shove it up the inside for a move just before the uphill. But what I didn't expect was this. He ends up shoving his nose up the inside, and we go side by side all the way through this section here. Now because he's holding the inside line, I go deep into this corner so we don't make contact, but he completely cuts me off, and I end up giving him a tap as well, which I lose all of my momentum through there, and he gets his position back. Now we're still fighting with this guy, and as we go into the pit straight, I use my boost, and I throw a bit of a risky move into here. That went great. I genuinely think it's impossible to try and overtake through there. It is so sketchy. But we keep our battle going for quite a long time actually, so I'll let you watch. Yeah, that was not clean at all, but I get the overtake in the end of the day, and game's game I guess. Now I'm lucky I did that overtake then, because you get shown the yellow flags quite soon after, for this guy who spun on the apex of turn 1. But that was the end of the first session. I came P2 behind my mate Lance with a time of a 48.1. Considering the last time I was here was in petrol karts, so my fastest time was a 51.0. I think it just proves the point that these things are rapid. I got a bit confused here too, because I seen someone go around the track after the checkered flag, so I thought it was the yellows for the crash, but no, we did get shown the checkered flag. Once again, I'm the first one out of the pits going into this second session. But now that I know what to expect from these electric karts and the track, I end up improving my PB by quite a margin this time. After a quick light test, we get straight into the action, and I'll walk you through how I take this track. Under normal racing speed, turn 1 will be taken with a dab of brakes to get rotation in the kart. These next few corners will be flat out, taking an early apex and staying close to the barriers. Here is where I deploy my boost on the pit straight to get as much speed as possible, with a sight lift on that concrete seam there to get the kart through this corner. These corners I take flat, never mind the touch of the barrier there, but I apply the brakes once I'm in line with the red fire exit that was on the left. This corner is taken flat after the uphill, and this section is all flat until you get to the chicane. Similar to the downstairs chicanes at Cobb, I'll apply some brakes quite sharply to get the rotation in the car. On the exit of the downhill, I aim for the middle of the metal strip, keeping it close to the barriers, all the way keeping it straight until turn 1 again. I do know the corner at the end of the pit straight can be taken flat, but it is such a scary corner that I didn't even bother trying it in this session. If you have any tips on how I can improve my lap around this track, please leave them in the comments below. After about 5-6 minutes of hot lapping on my own, I meet up with Lance, who is stuck behind a load of traffic. I know he must have been stuck behind these for a while because of how quickly I caught him up. I try to shove my nose up to the inside of this guy again, but once again I back out because it's just such a tight track. But he messes up his exit of the chicane, which allows us to go side by side through the down ramp. I think we make a bit of contact here, but I managed to get the overtake done. Now this has to be the ballsiest thing I think I've ever seen. As you might have heard, the guy in the yellow suit was not happy with that move at all, and I can't really blame him because that was a very, very risky move. But now I've got a fight on my hands. Me and Kart 10 ended up battling for a while, so I'll let you watch. Once again channeling my inner Ayrton Senna for that move. But when I got to the top there, I thought I caused the yellow from that overtake I just did. So I had a quick look over my shoulder and apologise to the guy. But with him out of the way, I'm now behind Lance once again. But as we go back to green, we'll end up seeing that we are behind even more traffic. And on such a tight track, this is going to be hard to weave through. A little domino effect of braking here almost sends me into the back of Lance. And the same thing here. I don't know what was up with him tonight. He was just sending the most ballsiest moves. You'll never see him do anything like that bloody cough. I say that, but I end up doing the exact same thing here. I mean, they were quite early on the brakes. Plus, I think that's like one of the only overtaking spots on this track. So I had to get it done soon. And here's another stupid overtake from me. I don't know why I was telling him to leave space, because if anything, I was the one that didn't leave him space. And the adrenaline must have been going through me then, because I would never overtake through that corner.
They don't leave space. There's no space whatsoever.
No, Sean, that one was your fault. And that is the end of the second session. I once again came P2 behind Lance, but this time with a time of 46.7, which Lance only beat me by 7/1000ths of a second. This beat my time in the last session by 1.5 seconds.
46.7. And you were 0.007 behind me.
Jesus Christ!
Safe to say we were both happy with that. Now for the third and final session. This guy in front of me here, his name is Jay. And he holds, at this point in time, the 5th fastest lap around this track. So me and Lance both knew we weren't going to come nowhere near this guy. He was rapid. But at least I was behind him so he couldn't overtake me. As we were one of the last few karts to come out of the pits, we get shown the greens relatively quickly and catch this guy in front sleeping. He must have been knackered. For the first few laps I was pretty much on my own as that J guy was really out in front, but I still had Lance behind me. I waved my hand there to show that there's yellows and he has to slow down, because going up that hill you can't really see that light board. Now these yellows are on for a fairly long time, but I backed off quite a lot to give J room and me some clean air. But as soon as we get back up to racing speed, there's another yellow flag. But we're going back to green flags, but you'll never guess what. Not even 3 corners later, there's another one. And it was for this guy here that had spun at the apex of turn 1 and got himself lodged in the barriers. I hauled back so the marshal can get him out. And we're back to green. You can see how scared I was to make that move. And I've said it a load of times already, but that is a very, very scary corner. A lap later, we meet up with another back marker who must have been very nervous on track. I mean, they were holding a decent defensive line, just staying in the middle, but yeah, they were braking very sharply and unnecessarily.
Are you braking?
But to quickly get rid of them, I send a dive bomb up the inside, maybe sending them into Barry. I'm not too sure. If I did, then I'm sorry. And I absolutely bugger that corner up. Now, you see a person that has spun at the apex and can't move. What will happen next? Is it A, they try to move forward and unlodge themselves? B, a yellow flag gets shown? C, they somehow manage to reverse into me? Or D, nothing? If you chose B, then you'd be correct. Who would have thought? Now when we get back to the racing, I see Lance has left a huge gap behind me, so he's got some clean air, which I mean, hey, fair enough, I mean I would have done the same. But now I'm in the battle with a back marker. I don't know how I got so close to them. Either they were going very slow in the yellows or I was going fast. Either way, I managed to get close enough to make this move up on the inside, just before the uphill. After a few laps of pushing on my own, I decided to try and take this corner flat as I was told it could be done. Yeah, maybe not yet. And this time it was me that caused the yellows. After quickly being pushed back on track, we get back up to racing speed. Once again back under yellow flags for this guy that spun at the apex. I actually don't know how you spin there. But Lance is backing off once again, trying to get himself into some clean air. But little does he know, he's actually making a queue behind him.
On. Come on.
At this point, I didn't actually understand that he was trying to get some clean air, so I try and tell him to hurry up, but we go back to green anyway. Now in typical Lance fashion, here's another ballsy thing he does. Absolutely slams on the brakes and the red flags and almost gets rear-ended. Bet that guy in front cracked himself. And this now brings us to the end of the final session. I once again came P2 with a time of 47.2 this time, which was only 4/10 slower than Jay, which I could not believe when I got upstairs to see the lap times. I don't know if he just had a lot of traffic in this session or what, but being 4/10 behind the guy that has the 5th fastest time at this track was unreal. For me anyway. And that is it for this video. This is my first time at TeamSport Birmingham in over a year, and this is my first time trying electric karts. Safe to say I will be coming back soon, as I really enjoyed this. A big thank you to the marshals as well for today for being brilliant and dealing with all the crashes and spins so quickly. But lastly, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.